Good morning, everybody. Thursday, the 11th of August, and it is 2 o'clock for me in the UK, 9 o'clock EST. And we just obviously have had some news at 8:30, which we can see the indexes are coming down into our support from yesterday, which is what we wanted to see. There was a level I marked yesterday before the close, which was pretty much 777s. And that is going to line up nicely inside of the 38 and the 50 from the high to high from last Tuesday. So just taking that off for a second, you can see where we have come. I'm just going to take the indicators off just for a second, just so you can see where we are. And of course, if we zoom out, we have we have two very important completions on here that I just want to show you on the daily. So on the daily time frame, you can see we have the negative 100. I'm just going to take this high to high for a second. I'm just going to take this one off as well. So obviously this was the traditional. The high to high, the first high to high in this whole sequence has finally, guys, finally completed that negative 100, which is insane, right? What an absolute move, right? From the zero drawdown entry, let's just say that again, zero drawdown entry all the way up to the negative 100. Took 82 days, 3,000 points. 3,000 point, zero drawdown entry. Zero drawdown entry. Zero. That is what you call a technical level. All the way to the negative 100 for 3,012 points. That is what you call precision trading, right? It is just textbook. And if we go down to the smaller time frames, you can see we then have a micro extension inside that whole move, which was from last week, and that was your halfway back. Notice how it never broke the 62% retracement, or 61.8. And again, where did that go to? The negative 100. So this is the daily draw. Go back to the daily. This is your daily extension. I'm just going to put it in dotted dashed line so you can see. Okay. And inside that extension, obviously, we have micros inside, and you can see the micro extension, a traditional draw, went all the way to what? It's negative 100 yesterday. So the markets are reacting very, very technically to these setups. And there is now two things we can do. Firstly, I am just going to draw. No, I'm not even going to do that. I am going to just draw two things on here. Those will be obviously the high to high sequence, which is where we are coming down into. So that is that 38 in the 50. And if you go down to the lower time frame, we obviously have had a reaction on that. And inside there, you do have a micro extension that is so far holding. Completions would take you to 889s. Not saying that's going to complete by any means, but I will alert that just in case. But the next thing that I would be looking for if this does fail is going to be a move back down into the full same Manco new high. But obviously, that is only until the high to high breaks. So for now, I will just keep the high to high on and be very, very aware of that daily negative 100. I won't keep the traditional on because I know the traditional negative 100 pretty much lines up with the daily. So that's just double confirmation. So all I will do is just put that in double thickness, and you can see they had a really nice retest of that level. One thing I will pay attention to as well is just making sure I am aware of value. And we had a huge discussion on value the other day. And I will be updating the masterclass in terms of using the anchored VWAP for the value. And we will go into deeper discussions about that. But currently, value for me pretty much lines up with where I said yesterday. So the only thing I could do is basically say one of two things here. So we'll go down to the smaller time frame and we'll put the indicators on. Now, one of two things here, right? If you want to trade the short side, you've already had the market show you its hands. So the potential short side trade that that we may potentially get would be a rejection into the previous day low, right? And all I would be looking for on something like that is something like this, right? If that does take place, then that's all I would be looking for. But for that to really take place, actually, I wouldn't even short that. I would then short something like probably this. So I would miss this move here, and then I would probably look for the same anchor new low, and I would look for the rejection of value. Okay, so again, value right now for me would be 780s, and if you break and hold below that, you would be below the previous day low. You would be below value on the week, and therefore shorts down into a break of ATR would be fine to take for me. So 600s is your ATR low on the day. On the ETH, and the negative 23 that I just drew would line up with about 550s, but of course that is just a random draw. That is all I would really look for. Again, I don't think you can just nakedly short this. I would wait for the break and the crack of trend, which so far trend is in this green line here, which is also in line with the value from the anchored VWAP that you just saw me draw, and it is also the midpoint between the high to high support. So if that support fails, which is here, the 38 and the 50, if that midpoint, which you can see, fails, okay, which is again this whole correlation line here, called it 780s, right? If that fails, then I imagine you wait for the chop. You've had the drop, you've had the base, and you've had the second drop. You either base out and then drop again, back into value, and then you sell off, right? That's the short, if we get it, right? The opposite side to that, which would be the long, which I also still don't mind. The only thing I would say is you're not above previous day highs, right? So you're not above previous day highs, and for that is just, for my style of trading, isn't super bullish, right? Doesn't mean you can't trade the longs. It just means it's not super bullish. So I'm just going to move this over here. Okay, if you were going to look for the long side, obviously most of you know I like to be long and strong above the previous day high. However, in that situation, you can see we are below. We are significantly below the previous day high, and also what else is not in our favor for the long side? Where is the ATR high for the day? The ATR high for the day is right above the previous day high, which means you just don't have a much magnitude. Now, can you take a trade at the lows and sell and use this as your range? You can, right? But again, like I sometimes say, just because you can do something doesn't mean you should always do it, right? Sometimes I pick pennies up from the floor. Doesn't mean I do it all the time. Doesn't mean it's something that you should always do, right? Like you have to have some sort of reason before in terms of trying to do something. And for me, just because that could happen doesn't mean it's a valuable strategy. So I don't necessarily think I will trade the longs, even if it goes up. I certainly won't trade the shorts if we're going up. That is a fact. But at the same time, I don't think I will trade any longs into this range. Why? Because there's so much more better setups to be had. And again, just because you can doesn't mean you should. There is so much more better opportunity in the weeks, in the months, in the years than trying to trade a setup like that. Again, it could completely do that, and that is fine. I just know what I like to trade, and that isn't what I like to trade. If you want to be a complete contrarian, then yeah, for sure, just bid the longs at the lows and see what happens, but not really something I would want to do. So probably won't trade the longs today, I don't think. Depends where we open on the LTH, obviously, but right now I would imagine, or I would favor more of a rejection of value on the week. But we will have to see how we open, because again, you could just bid this straight into support. But tricky one. Like I say, the weekly support is currently in line with the trend. That is also in line with the high to high, and you do have magnitude up here. Whenever these setups are like this, typically they take more than a day to form, because again, value for the highs previous day highs is so far below, you would need to build a base and slowly get back above, then the next day base out and go up. But right now, all you've done is the opposite. You've based out, you've dropped, you've based out, and you've dropped. So currently you have to argue you are in a downtrend. And obviously, since we've broken down those daily negative 100 completions, it makes sense daily and also weekly. So yeah, right now it's probably going to be a consolidation before either going up or down, and hopefully you've got my understanding of what I would want to see for the short side. And in terms of the long side, it will definitely change depending on how we open. In terms of my trend, currently the ETH is above it, but if this breaks, okay, if it breaks or even breaks or touches, I will most likely wait for a potential setup like this. And again, what's amazing about my style of trading is I don't have to just short any of this. I can wait for all of this move to happen and then get something like this. Whereas most people will try and short inside all of this, get chopped up, and then when the easy short happens, they can't take it, right? Similar thing happened to me yesterday when I said about the high to high. If price came down to, basically we took longs on Tuesday on this amazing support down here at 660s, right? And we rode them into those profit targets at that negative 23. And I said to everyone, typically when price comes back down, you can see here, we took those longs here and sold into the negative 23, which was here. So we went long here and sold into here. And I said yesterday on stream to everyone, if price comes back down to those target or those exit points, typically it's never a good trade to take the longs. And I did take some longs down there and ultimately got stopped out on a couple, but this morning I was actually able to get a push out of value from yesterday and actually ride that into the resistance on the day. So hopefully that's been useful. If there's any questions in the Discord, let me know. But that is currently how we are set up. And yeah, I think if you're trading the long side, again, you do technically have momentum on your side on both indexes. And on the week, all indexes are still inside value. You're at the low end of value, but you are still there. So you could argue this is a discount, super cheap discount long, and maybe you get a reaction like you did down here. You just have to ask yourself or answer, do you really want to be buying below the previous day low? It's not for me to say, but that is for you to decide if that's what you want to do or not. But for me, I believe there's much better trades to be had, personally, but that doesn't mean, you know, that is the same for everyone. So hopefully that's useful. I will move over to Discord and share my screen, and anyone on YouTube, if you want to join, you can click the link below. I will see you all tomorrow.